there, welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. I've got some fun home decor crafts coming your way. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Today we'll be working on some easy Farmhouse Valentine Home Decor Crafts. So let's get started with project number 1. For this project, for supplies, I have a set of these 4 chunky wonky hearts. They come with craftingwithkimber.com. They're nice and thick, 1/2-inch wood. They set upright. I'll have a link down below for you. I'm going to use like this 3rd size in. Okay, and then I'm going to use these 2 pieces of wood from Dollar Tree. One is the 8-inch chunky slat board, and then the other is the 10-inch chunky slat board. Now you could just use one single board for this project as well. So for this project, I've picked out some scrapbook paper, and on this lighter color cream cardstock, I'm going to print the PDF I have available for you. I'm going to give you 3 PDFs actually. They'll be linked to my blog in the description box. Click on that. If you use one single piece of wood, if you look in the upper left, you can just print out the quote like that. If you use 2 pieces of wood, what I've done is I've just put the 2 quotes apart, the 2 lines apart, so that you could cut them out to fit 2 pieces of wood. And the third option that I'm going to do is I use my XTool M1 machine and I cut out a little wood love word, and I printed a third option of excluding the love word from the quote. If you wanted to do the same thing, maybe you want to just, print the quote out in a different color so you have a different color for the love word. Maybe you want to cut it out in vinyl, or maybe you can cut it out in wood, or if you go to a scrapbook store, they have tiny little words that are, made out of wood. If you find a little love word, that could work as well. So lots of options for you. For paint colors, I'm going to use Debbie's Design Diary, Little Black Dress Chalk Paint, and Dixie Belle Chalk Paint in the color Rustic Red. Going to set that aside because the first thing that we're going to do is cut our paper to fit our wood. So I'm going to use this little tiny kind of black and white dot paper, and I'm going to cut it to fit the front and back of my wood piece here, and I'm going to cut the paper a little shorter all the way around so that you can see that red perimeter. Okay, then I'm going to do the same thing for the larger piece of wood. All the papers we're using today, they're old. They're probably not even in stock anymore, but like this black lined paper, it looks like wood slats. You can still get those at Hobby Lobby, I think. So there, I've cut that to fit just a little bit shorter around so that you can see that perimeter of wood. And then I'm taking this kind of, I'm going to say, let's see, this is probably this, I don't know, this particular size heart from the chunky wonky heart set from craftingwithkimber.com. I'm going to trace around it front and back on the back side of the scrapbook paper, and then I'm going to come in about a 1/4 inch, well, it's about 1/8 of an inch in, and I'm going to redraw that pattern line again front and back so that I cover the front and back of the heart so that everything is nice and finished off on the back. Do that both sides, and then that's what I'm going to cut out. Okay, it's really easy. I like to do this because I like to see the perimeter of wood around it since we paint it anyway, and I just kind of want to see, both that option on my wood. So here I am cutting one out. I'll show you what it looks like, just kind of like the wood slats. Place it on here, and then it's going to look like that. And you could leave your wood naked here, not even paint it. I think it looks really cute as well. So here is my quote. I printed it off, printed the version off without the love word and the quote split apart so that I could cut it apart. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this to fit the paper, the first paper that I cut on the wood, and I'm going to cut it a little bit shorter all the way around. So in essence, when you're done, you're going to see a little bit of wood perimeter. Then you're going to see that first scrapbook paper, a little perimeter of that, and then you're going to see a little bit of perimeter around our quote here so that you see all 3 elements kind of stacked up. So there's what that looks like. See, about an 1/8 inch shorter all the way around. Otherwise, why do we use scrapbook paper if we're not going to, see it a little bit at least? And then what I like to do is take the open end of my scissor blades. This is just optional if you want. I like to give my papers a little bit of texture, so I scrape along the edges. You can see here where it's scraped and the one that's not scraped. It gives it a nice little white border. It helps that paper to kind of pop up off the wood just a little bit, gives it a little bit of 3D dimension to it, and I'll do that on all my pieces of paper, including, the little heart, everything like that. On the heart, you can really see it because you really see that white edge showing around that perimeter there. It just looks cute. So here's with and without again. See? So it's optional. You can try it, see if you like it. And then what I like to do is I like to take all my papers to my sewing machine and I sew around them, including that little bitty heart. I just kind of use usually a neutral thread. I use whites, light browns, dark browns, blacks, whatever I'm kind of feeling at the moment. I use a size 10 or 11 needle, and I just sew through it like I'm sewing on fabric. It doesn't dull my needle. I go from paper to fabric, back and forth on it. The only time I change my needle is if my needle happens to break. All right, I just like to do this. It gives it a little bit of a country look. This is what that looks like here. And now I'm going to come in. Now we're going to start painting. So I'm going to paint around the perimeter of my heart and my 2 wood slats in black and all around the edges of the wood slats as well. And then what I'll do is, I think I put it in here. I do a little bit of sanding because I want to distress my wood, you know, with the paint and stuff on it. But just around the perimeter on the front and back because we're going to cover the middle, and then fully around all the sides, of course, because that won't get covered up, obviously. And then I'm going to paint my little love word with that rustic red. And this takes a little bit of time, tiny little paintbrush, because I'm trying not to get it on the sides of the wood, just trying to stay on top. And I do 2 coats, so it looks nice. But this is a fun option, just to add a little dimension to the project. Now here I'm coming in with a, it's not a fingernail file, it's actually a tongue depressor that I glued sandpaper onto and then trimmed around it, so it allows me to hold it better and then distress all my wood pieces. Now what I want to do, I'm taking some of that little black dress chalk paint, putting water in it, and I'm going to water it down a little bit, and then I'm going to take my tiny little fan brush. This is it. Love my tiny little fan brush. I'm going to dunk it into the paint, and I'm going to kind of wipe off the excess. And then I'm going to just tap that fan brush, and I'm going to add delicate little splatters on the front and back of my hearts. And then just on the front of the paper where the quote is, because the back you don't really see it anyway because it's such dark paper. But just to give it a little more texture, and then I'll add a few little sprinkles onto the love word as well. All right, now I'm going to take my Beacon Fabri-Tac glue here to glue all of this down. You can certainly use a glue stick or hot glue gun if you want, but I'm going to glue my papers front and back onto my heart and see how nice it looks with that little bit of paint just around it and distressed around the edges. And then I'll go ahead and add the paper to the back of my sign so it finishes it off really nicely. Looking great. See how where we scraped along the paper edges, how it kind of just pops up off that wood a little bit. I'll add the quote to the top. Just gives it more texture, and I just like that. But what do I say from time to time? You do you. Put the bottom on. Perfect. And then I'm going to go ahead and add that love word here, just nice and tiny. Now the L is quite tall, so when I put this on, it's going to kind of come up off the top a little bit. Take all my little strings off, my little glue strings there with a big needle. I had it down too far at the bottom. I'm like, oh, wait, that's not lining up. So then when I line it up right, it'll come up off the top a little bit, but I think that's fun. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue my one top sign to the bottom sign to keep it all one unit. And I'm going to kind of glue it kind of cattywampus, right? You could glue it straight or not glue it at all. And then I'm going to glue the little heart in the left-hand corner, that little space there, which is why I have one short board, one long board. And that makes this project complete. Let's move on to project number 2. For this project, I again have some cardstock and some scrapbook paper, and then I'm going to repurpose the sign. I got it clearance at Hobby Lobby. It's already got the framing for me. You could build it from scratch totally, of course, but this is already ready to go. And I'm going to use one of these little hearts. This is a set of 12 mini hearts set from craftingwithkimber.com. Again, I'll have the link down below for you. And then I have used my XTool M1 machine, and I've cut out a word here, okay? And there's, again, some options for you. I'm going to actually cut out the quote in vinyl this time, but you could print it out just like we did on the first project. Now, if you choose to print this, I'm going to give you 3 PDF options as well. Again, link in my description box. You get the whole quote as it is. The second option is if you want to print the quote, but just add a cute tiny heart, right? The third option is if you want to print the top card of the quote and then do the you and the love in vinyl or wood or something like that. So you've got 3 different options as compared to what supplies that you were able to get a hold of. For paint, I'm going to use the Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color Rustic Red and Dixie Belle chalk paint in drop cloth because it matches my vinyl very nicely. All right, so first thing I want to do, I'm just going to take all the stuff off of the back, you know, take all the staples and everything out. And the little hanger is like in the wrong spot. So I'm going to have to take that and move it up to the top because I'm going to make this sign vertical versus landscape. And then I'm going to cut some black cardstock to fit just inside that center portion there. Then I'm going to go ahead and take some little black dress chalk paint that we used on the first project and just paint right around that perimeter there just a little bit in case my paper doesn't fit exact. I don't want to see any of that white around it. And then I'm going to take some sandpaper and distress up the framing a little bit. Now you could paint that whole center, but that base of that sign, that center portion where the quote is actually kind of a paper. So by painting it, it kind of bubbles up a little bit, which is why I'm covering it up. Then I'm cutting my second piece of paper here. This is an old paper from my supply. I don't even know if you can get it anymore. Prima marketing paper. And I'm going to cut it just to fit inside that black cardstock a little bit so you see both pieces. And then off camera, I'll take it to my sewing machine and sew around the perimeter. This is what that looks like. I sewed the black cardstock as well as the paper. Then I'm going to come in with that drop cloth paint and I'm going to paint my U word so that will match the color of the vinyl I'm doing. I'll do a couple of coats here. Then once that's done, we'll come in and use that rustic red and we'll paint our little tiny heart. I do go ahead and kind of distress up the heart a little bit, but I don't worry about kind of distressing the wood word because it is kind of skinny writing and I don't want to be sanding it and then my word breaks. That wouldn't look very attractive. So I'll get this all painted up. Here is my vinyl quote I've got cut out, ready to go. And I'm going to go ahead and just add some transfer paper to the top and smooth it on, so that I could pull the letters off of the backing. I often don't show this process, but you know, this project is pretty quick, so thought I'd leave it in for you. And then I'm going to transfer it where I want it onto my background paper there, making sure I measured everything off camera, making sure I left room for the U word at the bottom. And then I'll just slowly peel that transfer paper up off of the paper, kind of in a back and forth wiggle motion. When you do that, usually will not rip your paper, especially with this Cricut brand transfer paper because it's not a real strong, tacky transfer tape. Then I'm going to go ahead and glue this whole paper quote ensemble down into the center of my sign space here. Get that down all nice and tight. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue my U word on. I love how this turned out. Both of these first 2 projects, really all of them. But I love this because it was so simple and quick and easy. And just by adding a wood word, or even if you just printed it all out and added a cute little wood heart, just gave it that little bit of 3D and it just looks really cute. I'm going to place that right down inside the swoop of the U. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I mix some of that drop cloth paint with water, taking my fan brush again, dipping it into paint, wiping off the extra, and just tapping it a little bit to add some splatters. It's inevitably going to get on the framing a little bit, so I go ahead and add some splatters around the outside of my frame as well to make it all look intentional. And then that makes this project complete. Let's move on to project number 3. For this project and supplies, I'm going to use this pom-pom maker you get at Dollar Tree. It's like the medium size. I'm going to use some of this cream colored yarn, also from Dollar Tree. I free-handed a heart here, so you could just draw a heart. I didn't make a pattern for you, just free-handed it. Mine is about a 7-inch wide heart. And then from the center of those scallops down to the point is about 4 inches tall. But you can, make your heart as big or as little as you want. I'm going to use some of this felt. I got it at Hobby Lobby, but I know Joann's has it as well. And then this is a twin size quilt. I think I bought it from Wayfair. It was like a quilt in a sham open box. Got it for like $21. Been cutting on it. And then, of course, this is a clearance Christmas quilt. Of course, I think Wayfair as well. Got it for around $30. Been cutting on it. Now, for the hearts, you're going to cut 5, okay? So for the back felt, here it is already cut. What I did on the back felt is I cut them about a 1/4 inch bigger around the heart pattern. Now for the hearts themselves, you can use all one color, 2 colors. You can cut them all just out in one unit. What I did is I cut one heart in its entirety, and then I cut 4 more hearts of the red and 4 more hearts of the white. So when I'm done, I have 5 hearts total. But what you want to do is, what I did is I cut the heart in half for the scallop part. But for the bottom part, I had to cut another heart. So it was about an inch bigger than original. So I hope this is understandable. So the heart scallop part of the heart, I cut in half. The bottom part of the heart, I did both for the cream and the red. The bottom part of the heart, I actually cut it right at the point of that scallop there. That's how big my bottom pattern piece was, so that I could overlap my pieces. Now, you could just cut the hearts directly in half, but when you sew them together, they're going to be a little smaller, of course. So that's why I ended up cutting extra hearts, so that my bottom portion of my heart could actually be a little taller for the pattern, so that I could overlap them. I hope that's understandable. So in the end, when I'm done, I've got 1 single red heart, 2 hearts with a cream top and a red bottom, and 2 hearts with a red bottom and a cream top. Okay, and I like to keep, and then of course this is what it would look like when you place the 2 pieces or 1 piece on top of your felt on the bottom. You see that little bit of edging coming around the background. Now you could make this clean looking. You could put your 2 hearts, if you decide to cut in half, together, right sides together, and then sew or glue along that edge. And then when you open it up, it's all nice and clean and pretty looking. Your rough edges are gone, but you know me, I want that rough edge to stand out. So I overlap it, and then you can sew or glue across. That's backwards. You could glue or sew across, leaving your patterns to overlap, and then give us that nice kind of rough, rustic kind of farmhouse look. And I'll do that on all the ones of the hearts that I cut in half. So hopefully that was understandable. You could cut your hearts directly in half and then glue or sew them together, but then they're going to be smaller size. So if your bottom half pattern is a little bit taller, which is why I cut out extra hearts, you can overlap them and glue or sew them together. So here's options for the next one. Okay, our next part of our heart. You can just, if you're a gluer, you can just glue your top heart to your bottom heart or sew around it. But if you want, you can kind of stuff it a little bit. So this is some batting. You can get it off the roll or in a bag. You can cut out, you can get from Joann's or Walmart, or you can use some actual pillow stuffing here. If you use pillow stuffing, you can glue that down if you're a gluer, and then glue around the edges really good, or you could sew around your edges and then make it look like a really just nice stuffed kind of pillow heart. Or if you use the batting that you buy off the roller in a bag, you can glue it together or cut around it, and then just leave that outer edge exposed as if you cut a quilt apart. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use batting that I actually cut out, and then just sew around the edges and let all those insides hang outside and leave it as it is. So a couple of options for you, right? Well, 3 options. You can glue your heart directly to the felt. You can add actual stuffing and kind of, sew or glue it together like it's a little bit of a pillow, or you can add batting to it, let it all hang out, and sew or glue it together. Because you can hide that regular stuffing if you want, or allow the bagged stuffing or by the yard stuffing hang out. Boy, that was a lot to say, and I probably said it fine the very first time, but I felt like I really had to explain myself. Now I'm taking some clothespins. They're the okay color now, but I just wanted to darken them just a little bit. You could see the difference here. I just took that Waverly Anti-Wax mixed with water. I painted on. It's really dark here. I don't like that, of course. And then I just use my water bottle, squirt it, and then wipe off the excess, and it gives it just a little bit of darkening flavor. Now, the next thing I decide I want to do is go ahead and add some buttons to our heart. So this is the way the front and back, it looks really nice by itself, but I thought I just want to add some buttons and kind of make it look quilted. I've got a few of them done already. Really, I just took some buttons. This is just twine from Dollar Tree. I just thread the buttons. You know, I didn't like sew through it. You could sew front to back if you wanted to actually sew it on and, you know, pull your thread really tight and make it look kind of poofy around the button. But I'm just threading it through with the twine and then, you know, on the back side, tying it into the knot and then cutting off the tails, and then I'll just glue them on in the center. But by using like a needle and thread and sewing it from the back of to the front, you could really pull that thread tight on the back side of your heart and then kind of make it look poofy around it, if you know what I'm talking about. So all my buttons are threaded. I'm just using my Beacon Fabri-Tac glue here, and I'm just going to sew it right down below that center of the heart there. I think these are looking really cute. I like how they turned it out. My vision in my head, this is what it looked like. Get the last one glued on here. And then we're going to start working with our garland. So I'm going to use this macrame twine from Dollar Tree, this red and tan twine also from Dollar Tree. Now everyone, this red and tan twine comes out from Dollar Tree with all the nautical stuff this summer. So when you get it, that's when I buy like 5 or 6 rolls. You may want to stock up on that. They also have the cream and tan as well during that time. And then this is just some thick twine from Walmart. It costs about $4 or $5 a skein. Now for the main hanging part of the garland, I'm going to use the red and brown and the macrame cord together. I cut off about 70 inches, I believe, 65, 70 inches. And then I cut about 9 of that thick twine from Walmart, about 20 inches long. I don't know why I cut 9, because I also, off camera, I went ahead and made my pom-poms. I've got them all trimmed down. I made 9. I only needed 6, but that's okay because Bella kept coming and stealing them from me, so she got 3 new toys. Now, when I made the pom-poms, I made sure that the yarn that you tie around the center of the pom-pom to hold all the pieces together is really long so that we can tie it onto our main string. So the first thing you want to do, take your ends of your strings and then fold it all in half so that you can find the center of your garland. Okay, and the first thing I'm going to do, my red heart, all red heart's going to be my center. So I'm going to just mark this here with a little paper or a clothespin. And then what I'm going to do is add some glue into the center of my clothespin. I'm going to set it aside a minute because I've got about a minute before that sets up. I'm going to add a little bit of glue to both of the twine and turn this over and stick it to the back of the heart about a 1/2 inch down. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the clothespin. Now we're going to go ahead and glue the rest of that twine that's hanging around outside the clothespin onto the back of the heart. We'll finish that later and glue that on later. Right now, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to alternate hearts and pom-poms. Hearts and pom-poms. So off camera, you need to figure out how many inches apart you want to alternate your items, okay? I usually do about 2.5 to 3 inches apart. So I've got that all set, and I've got marked on my twine where my pom-poms are going to go, and I've got my hearts clipped on with the clothespin. Nothing's glued on, and I went about 2.5 inches apart. So technically between the hearts, it's 5 inches apart, and then you place your pom-pom in the center. Now we're going to work on the end so we can make a loop to hang our garland. So I folded that end over. I'm probably about 1 inch from my pom-pom marker there. I've got another piece of twine, it's probably about 20 inches long or so, and I'm just going to come down here and I'm going to tie it in a knot and make a little bow with the twine. And when you tie it, pull it really, really, really tight. I want to see how long this is so I know the other side from the end to the top of the loop's about 3 1/4 because I like both sides to be the exact same. I'm weird on measurements. I like it perfect. So pull that tying twine really, really tight so your loop will not come apart. And then I just tied it, like I said, into a little bow, making sure I've got it really tight, and then cut off the extra. And then I'm going to come around to the other side and do the same thing. I'm going to measure first, making sure the cut ends to the top of the loop is 3 1/4, and I'm about 1 inch away from my pom-pom marker there. And then I'm going to come in and add that twine in there. I'll tie it in a knot first, really, really tight. I mean, I pull on it really hard because I don't want that to come out. This isn't a heavy garland by any means, but still I don't want my loop to come out. And then, of course, tie that remaining in a bow and cut off the excess. Now where all my hearts are clipped in, I'm going to come in and glue everything together. So you can see I'm gluing it all the way across, and I'm laying both the macrame and the twine on there, and then I'm adding glue to the center of that clothespin, and then I'll come in and glue that, or place that right over the top so it's over the twine and, of course, onto the heart. And I'm going to do that through all of them. Just all the way across, probably about 1 inch down actually here. Lay my rope twine on that, add glue to my clothespin, and then go ahead and glue it over that entire ensemble. And then this middle one, remember we didn't glue that all the way down because we were just kind of placing it there first so we knew where the center is. So I'm just kind of coming in and going ahead and gluing down the edges. That way it just lays stable and it doesn't try to tweak the twine or anything like that. It'll lay nice and stable. And then, of course, look at Bella. She's chewing on the little ties on my sweater, but, you know, whatever, she's having fun. Really pulling on it there, but she's having fun. Anyway, getting the rest of these clothespins onto the hearts. That way everything's all nice and sturdy. And then we're going to come in and just start tying our pom-poms. I've moved to the wall now. Now before I tie my pom-poms on, I like to go about 2 inches up and just tie a starter knot there. If you can see that there, just like that. That way when you go to tie it onto the twine, that starter knot comes right up against that twine, and then you can bring both tails of that yarn up and over the twine and then tie a knot around that twine, if that's understandable. And just kind of tie it nice and tight. So yeah, I've got the garland moved on the wall, so you can see me moving across it very easily. Skip ahead to the last one because it's all the same thing. We're just tying our pom-poms on, but it does make it easier to kind of tie that little knot in first, so it's nice and stable up against that macrame cord and twine there. And then I'm going to come in and just cut off the excess of my yarn. I like to leave a little bit of hanging just for texture. You can cut it however long you want or however short you want. And then I'm going to come in with the, of course, hung 6 pom-poms, not 9, and come in with our 6 pieces of thick twine, and I'm just going around the main cord of our garland and around that pom-pom there at the top, and I'm just making a nice little bow and cutting off my tails as long as I want them to be, and I'm pulling just nice and tight on there because this thick twine can come loose very easily, so I'm trying to make sure I pull the bows nice and tight there so it holds on, just to give it a little texture. Moving right along here, coming near the end, I've just got a couple more pieces to go here. I think this is looking really cute, really kind of country, farmhouse, easy. I like it better than the last heart pom-pom garland I made. Was that last year or the year before? If you want to see that, I do have a playlist of my Valentine crafts from 2022 to currently. We'll be adding to it this year. But I think I like this one better. That one I did with pom-poms and envelopes, so I thought it was time to do pom-poms and hearts this time. All right, cut off the tails on that. And go along and make sure I've got everything the way I like it as I'm looking at it. And then the last thing I'm going to do, don't hate me, but I'm taking that leftover drop cloth paint, watered down, that we did on that God Knew My Heart Needed You sign, and my fan brush, and I'm splattering my fabric with it because I just think it gives it a fun little bit more texture just on the red part, just to kind of bring up the cream a little bit more. You can leave this in if you want or do as I'm doing, but that makes this project complete. So I hope you like all the projects I came up with as we boldly step into a couple of videos for Valentine's crafts. Leave me a comment down below and let me know which project was your favorite. Please give this video a thumbs up. And if you walked in here for the first time, you're just checking things out, you're digging what you saw, make sure before you click off, you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on another video from me. Before I go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. Sometimes you may just feel like you're constantly discouraged with feelings of defeat. It seems like you have to strive for everything you're going for. It may often feel like whenever you get 2 steps ahead, you fall 3 steps back, and it seems endless. Even as you look at other lives around you, it appears things come pretty easy for them, but honestly, you don't know that. Perhaps they're looking your way, feeling the exact same thing. No matter what is lying in your path of life, keeping your faith through it may seem difficult, but keeping your faith through it is what matters most. The enemy wants you to believe that God isn't with you, or that God isn't listening, or that God won't provide for you, or that God doesn't care. This is a lie from the enemy himself, and you must not allow him to have a seat in your heart and mind. You have to remain constant in keeping your hope intertwined with your belief in what God has for you. If the road seems long or the valley seems endless and you aren't sure that God is working in your life, be assured within your faith that He is. In the Bible, the book of Isaiah, chapter 64 and verse 4, it says that God acts on behalf of those who wait for Him. In the first half of this verse, the word acts is a verb, and it means that God is doing something in your life. And in the second half of this verse, who does God act on behalf of? Those who wait for Him. And that points directly at you. Be assured that God's word does not lie. Be assured that He is actively doing something for you. So during difficult times, know that you need to trust God as He prepares the road ahead. You need to understand that He will work in you and through you as He weaves things together in His perfect timing for your perfect goodness. You also need to try to have the patience to allow God to do what He needs to do to get everything settled, even if it doesn't make sense, and even if you feel like you've been in that valley for quite a while. Lastly, as you wait, turn your back away from that valley. Keep your eyes upward toward His light and focus on these things that you know are true. God is always with you. God will always hear you. God will always provide for you. God will always care for you. God will always comfort you. God will always come through for you. And God will always act on your behalf because He loves you. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.